flow state. I can't wait to see straight, I can't wait to change fate, I can't wait to flee hate, keeping all my good traits, letting all the mistakes go. I beat the foe, I take control, spread good vibes is all I'm told. Never sold, there's always more, I can grow and I'll explore all the past that I can map out in my head. It's like a tour. Know the world is evil, people strip you right down to the core, but you know that you can be way better than you were before. For your mother, for your father, for your sister or your toddler, you can be the one that makes them feel the best when they're around you. So don't be a lazy coward, just listen for an hour. Sean and Tyler about to show you just how you can hold the power.
Welcome back to Flow State with Tyler and Sean the Flock. This is episode 14. In this episode, we recap our travels. Tyler deals with feelings of guilt, and Tyler shares how learning with your kids instead of teaching them can give you an entirely profound effect at the way you approach life. Guys, if you like this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Enjoy.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Look at this view. Oh, wow. Look at that. Nice, man. I see a nice rug over there. I see a cup of joe, or maybe it's bone broth. I'm not sure.
It's a cup of joe. Just, podcast with a view.
Podcast with a view. That is some typical April New York City weather right there.
Yeah, nice and gray. That's how we like it.
Gray.
Got these showers bringing in them bay flowers. What's I just finished listening to last week's podcast.
Really? You gave it a listen through, eh?
Yeah, just finished it up. Man, the last 15, 20 minutes are pretty
got deep.
They were pretty heavy.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how this week's conversation goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, I was, I think, for me, things ebb and flow.
Mm-hmm. Ebb and flow.
Ebb and flow. So when I get to those points, obviously there's a moment of epiphany. There's a moment of clarity. And it's a big learning experience as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, how's your week been, buddy?
It's been good. Move was a success, as you can see.
You've successfully moved, except you have a carpet sitting behind you, rolled up.
I got a carpet sitting behind me, rolled up, and I got a TV in a box that needs to be hung up.
It's my TV
Sunday.
in a box.
It's my TV in a box.
Why before Sunday?
Why before Sunday? I'm really gonna ask that question.
What? Oh, that's right.
Floppy wiener.
I am abstaining until my girlfriend comes back.
How? What?
How? What?
What?
The love of my life is out in San Francisco, and I said I am not watching until she gets back. So we'll probably, watch Friday and then Sunday, which is a blessing in disguise because you're going to be on a cliffhanger for an entire 5 days. Me, 2 days.
And then you'll be on the cliffhanger again.
Yeah, well, you know what? You know?
It is what it is. I'm actually having a lot of anxiety because we have this trip for Italy in the beginning of May.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't know that? Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah. How would I have known?
I don't know. I don't tell anyone anything.
That's the mommy for Tyler. I don't know what Tyler's doing. He never tells anyone anything. It's so true.
It is very true. But that's my pattern I need to work on. So maybe that's something we'll dive into. But anyway, I will be gone for the first 2 weeks of May. Dominique and I are going to Italy. We are going to start out in Venice. Her cousin's getting married in Venice. So we're going to spend 2 to 3 days in Venice. Then we're going to go to Cinque Terre.
Cinque Terre.
And
isn't that the cheek?
No, Cinque is five.
Five
towns.
5 towns. Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Yeah. And then we're going to do Florence.
Uguale.
And then Florence to Capri.
Capri?
Capri.
Like a caprese salad?
like it's Caprista,
Ah.
and from Capri to Rome. So it'll be about 16 days.
Wow, 16 days away from the United States.
Yeah, I'm pumped
Wow,
up.
you balling. Are we going to do a
Uh,
podcast from Italy?
yeah, of course.
Holy smokes.
We've been going 13 weeks. Well, this will be 14 weeks.
Yep.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah,
For
14 weeks of flow, an hour a
for
week. At
14
least an
weeks,
hour.
at least an hour of
I mean,
14
sometimes
flow
we go,
state.
oh, return of flow.
Depends on how deep the flow is. So that's or how depends on how heavy the flow gets.
Sometimes that flow gets so deep, man. It's almost like we're in the Marianas Trench of flow. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my goodness gracious! Like we're out down in like, what's that blue ocean with those creatures down by those vents that somehow survive.
We're in so much flow. We're so deep in the flow. We just got like plankton near us. You know what I'm saying? We got these vents.
We got these fish with light bulbs on their
kind
heads.
of like something out of your nightmares, man. They just creep up on you. My best Theo Vaughn impression.
Yeah, I
Speaking
love
of
it.
which, I see him in 2 weeks.
Fuck yeah, very cool. Is it at the Improv?
Yeah, down in the Improv.
Yeah, it's so like
I'm getting
his
deeper
one.
into Theo.
Yeah, he's fucking phenomenal.
He's so original. He's just so
He's
weird.
he's
He's a
so weird.
character.
Yeah, he's such a character. He's so weird, and when he gets in a flow state, you need to watch out because he's gonna come up with something you've never heard before, and it's fucking so good.
The thing about Kansas City, he goes, they're crazy about that meat in Kansas City. Did you listen to the most recent podcast? He's talking
No,
about he did a show in Kansas City. He's like, man, they love their barbecue. You know what they'll do? They'll sneak up on you and they'll throw some meat up in that back jaw of yours. He goes, man, when you go to the dentist, man, they lock your jaw open. They'll put like ham bones back there in your back jaw. He goes, I heard they had a drive by. And all of a sudden, they were at a 6-shooter full of ham bites. Like,
what?
just so ridiculous.
Like,
But
what?
because he's saying it, and it's the voice behind it that
Right.
makes it funny.
Yeah, it's the voice and the truth behind it. There's like no,
He
not
believes
even
it.
Yes, he believes it 100%.
Yeah, so fucking funny.
So he's at the Improv.
Yeah, he's at the Improv.
Very cool.
Yeah, so
That's exciting.
Lauren got us tickets a couple months ago, so we're gonna go see that. Then I am actually heading out for Memorial Day weekend to Denver or Boulder and Denver for the Memorial Day weekend. Leave Thursday, come back Monday.
Very cool. What's planned for that?
There was a wedding that we were going to be going to, but it got canceled, so or postponed. So we are actually like I couldn't refund my ticket, so she was out there anyway. We're like, let's just do it. So we're going to go hiking and camping, or not camping, but hiking and just enjoy ourselves for a few days.
Yeah, I really want to go to Colorado. I still haven't been, so
I've been once for a few days. Played lacrosse out there in like late March, early April. We were just kind of in and out, but it'd be cool to spend a good 4 or 5 days out there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Nice long weekend.
That'd be fucking great.
Yeah.
So how's your
bighorn sheep?
Yeah, yeah. So move went well, and it was interesting. For a few days, I felt my mood become more short. Like I was prone to just like not snapping, but just felt like my just letting things bother me really quickly and being short with Dominique. And I think a part of it was surrounded by I really didn't handle much of the move. I kind of put it onto her, and I think there was some guilt involved in that. And also just like because she was handling everything, I really couldn't have a say in where things would go because once again I had guilt around it, and it's like, well, you did all the work and then you should have the choices of where things are. So I just felt myself becoming very short and just prone to being agitated very quickly. And I was able to recognize that at least for a few days, and I think it was from, I'd say, Friday afternoon where the move took place to about 2 days ago where I was in that kind of pattern. And I was finally able to come out of that pattern. And now I'm feeling like back in alignment and back in a really good place.
That's great.
Yeah.
So
Nice
what'd
shirt.
you learn?
I learned that all of those moments were a gift in a way to help me identify a spot within myself that I need to continue to explore and give space to.
So how deep of a level do you believe that it's a lesson to be learned from? Is it a knowing or is it like a conceptual place?
No, it's a knowing. It's a
Cool.
knowing.
That's
I believe.
amazing then.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, who knows until the next thing comes up that triggers me and puts me in that pattern again.
Yeah.
But I think the more we can recognize these patterns and bring awareness to them, the easier the process becomes. And maybe next time it doesn't have to take 4 days of me being in an agitated, pissy mood. I can kind of recognize it, bring awareness, give space to it, and maybe it takes that long again, but hopefully I could bring myself into alignment better.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's all. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, what about you for the week? But go ahead if you were going to add more to it.
So I was feeling fairly good flow in the beginning of the week. I had a game on Monday or weekend. I felt in fairly good flow. My girlfriend and I were hanging out for most of the weekend because she was going to be leaving on Monday. And I saw her off to the airport, on Monday, and I was emotional in the morning because, this is the first time we've really been apart. She's going to be away from 10 days and, like kind of dealing with each other's thoughts and beliefs and emotions and being communicative with that. And obviously one of the things that brings up is like when you have a insecurity or a belief and it potentially could affect the other person, how do you approach that, right? So say it's like, I don't know how I'm feeling about us right now. And that might be something that's going on in your head. Do you share that with the other person or do you keep that to yourself? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know, 100%. So if you're in a relationship and you're in a pattern right now or in a moment right now where you're questioning how committed to this relationship I am, is this relationship built for the long run? Do you share that with your partner or do you keep that shit inside?
So what is your thoughts?
I think you check in and see if you're in alignment. And if you feel you're in alignment and you still are having that thought, then maybe there's some truth and maybe there's a discussion to be had. Or is that moment when you're questioning it, is that once again something that is bringing your awareness the fact that you're out of alignment, and that's a protector or a trigger that you utilize in the past that you for instance might be wanting to close people off or go be a hermit because there's fear or there's sadness. So that's the way you've dealt with it in the past in a way.
That's a pretty fair assessment there, Tyler. I think there's not a right or wrong answer. I think when there is a question, you go inward and you get an alignment and then the answer will reveal itself. Is that basically what you're trying to say?
I think that summarizes my 2-minute diatribe.
When I edit our podcast sometimes, like I realize how bad I am, but as constructive criticism for you, you're sexy. No, you're no. You because I get what you're saying, but then when I slow it down, I'm like, it seems like you're trying to work through exactly what you're trying to say, and you end up getting to it. And what it is like, it shows how much more exposure I have to this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, like, because Tyler has really, really good content, really, really good thoughts. It's just like he just doesn't have enough practice yet, and he
Right.
can. And pausing and letting kind of things dissolve to its most essence is a skill.
Yeah. When you're able to boil down a point and that you're trying to make in 10 to 15 seconds, as opposed to sometimes where I fall into is working my way through it as I'm talking, which then could take, just as before, like minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes. It's like, I got to trust that whoever's listening or that you're listening can stick along with the ride and work your way through it with me.
Yeah, and when you fall into that knowing, it kind of gives yourself the space to actually create that beautiful content that you can. Because I know that when you're in flow, you come up with some extremely eloquently said, insightful ideas and
Yeah.
concepts. And man, like I got so going back to kind of what we were talking about earlier. Now that we've kind of hashed through, I think we've come to an agreement that when we are talking about whether or not we should be sharing things with our loved ones, going inward first, checking in and saying, are we in alignment? And then if we realize we are in alignment, maybe it's then something to
Explore more.
explore. And that for me brings up the idea that like I feel guilty for bringing things up when I wasn't in alignment. You know what I mean? Like I'm putting my shit onto someone else.
I mean, you could look at the flip side. Maybe that person gives you the mirror that you need.
Yeah, and I think I sent you that clip from Russell Brand's podcast. Cue clip now. Okay, we just listened to it. And it was like, what a codependent relationship is. When you're okay, I'm okay.
Right.
But a non-codependent relationship is you're not okay, and I'm okay that you're not okay, and I'm here to help you get to being okay.
Right. So if your
Want to
partner
unpack that for us, Tyler?
yeah, well, if your partner is somebody who can hold space for you, then it's something that you can feel comfortable bringing up.
Yeah, and it only triggers something in you if there's truth to it, or if you have an idea of a false belief, right?
Right.
So if my girlfriend goes, I really think that you are, you don't love me and you give too much attention to other girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part of you that believes that and it's like, yeah, maybe I do. Then you're going to be triggered by it. Like, no, I don't believe it's bullshit. You're crazy. Like, why do you think that way? I feel hurt by you saying that. I like, why would you even say that? Like, that's just hurtful.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe there's some truth, or there's like a false belief, or there's one other thing that usually comes up when that happens, or it's something that you are trying to avoid and not accept in other people, right? Like, say it was like a parent or a person you really respect who was like that, and you can't accept that because then that takes away the value and the attachment to that person, right? So there's something there. Because, Kyle C says, like, if someone calls you a purple monster, it's not going to trigger you.
Right.
But I think there's also a deeper layer of it, like, can I trust you? And like, are you nice? Like, this is what I think you are. And if you come at me with this, it's like, who are you? So it doesn't matter what it is. It's like, if your parent just starts going, rah, you're like, yo, man, what's going on? Like, it doesn't matter what you say. It's that energy you're coming at me with. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like unpacking the idea that when someone comes at you, it doesn't matter if it's from a place of disconnection or connection, and it triggers that idea that like, this is who you're supposed to be. You can't be that person.
I think taking a step back it's dependent upon the relationship. I think what's a gift about a partner is, especially one that you develop a deep relationship with, is that they have this uncanny ability to push your buttons, whatever those they find out what those buttons are, and they can push them. And you can look at that as a curse, or you can look at that as a gift. The gift being that they are helping you to bring awareness to yourself of things that need to be worked on. And I also think when you're having this discussion, what state are you in? Both of you and your partner. So is someone in pattern? Are you both in pattern? Are you having this argument where both of you are either angry, upset, whatever you guys may be going through, when is that conversation taking place? And if you then can revisit that conversation or whatever the argument may be in a place where both of you guys can come to and have a moment to be open to the other, then that's where I think the conversation can be valuable. But if you're both in pattern, then it's just going to be trigger.
And I think where the challenge resides is like we're not always in flow. We're not
Right.
always in a connected place. I would
Right.
say probably about 80% of my life is some kind of false belief standing in between me and where I am, like what my true authentic self is.
Yeah.
And then there's degrees of that, right? Sometimes you're off the deep end. Other times you're just like literally a thought away from, wow, I'm complete flow. So how do we share that with our partners, especially if they're kind of on an intrinsic journey as well?
Well, I think you can use your partner as a someone who can call you out, where they can help you recognize when you are falling into pattern. So
and not necessarily taking that personally. Like I think that's
exactly,
because that's something I don't like to call people out because I don't like to be called out.
Right, but if I was to say, Sean, hey, I just wanted you to bring awareness that I feel you're falling into pattern right now. We can continue to have this conversation, or if you need to take time to yourself, take time to yourself, and we can have this conversation later.
Well, that's a sticky situation because you have to be in flow in order for you to say that. Because if you're not in flow and you're saying that, basically what it becomes is you're not okay and I'm not okay.
Right. Well, if both of you are not okay,
then I think
that's when you have those blowout arguments.
That being said, I think if you identify that you're not okay with it, I think that's where it starts. I don't think you can say like you're like I appreciate what you said, but I don't think you can say that to your significant other and not have them be like, "Fuck you."
Well, if you had a moment where out of this pattern and you guys had made this agreement beforehand. For instance, Dominique and I give permission to Dominique to call me out when I'm using my phone, because I am trying to reprogram myself to not be addicted to my phone, especially at night, where I want to build the habit of building a deeper connection with her and making sure I check in with her and not being drawn to this fucking screen in my hands.
Lauren's like that as well. Like when we're at dinner and stuff, I can tell she's triggered, and I'm like, I take my phone and literally like throw it across the restaurant, or I'll shut it off, or like if we're together, like she's made it clear that like when we're together, Like let's appreciate each other. And obviously in the beginning, that brought up feelings of like, well, I feel trapped right now. Like you can't make me do this, but it's like, if it's triggering something in you, let's let it go for a little bit and see where it happens. Because I think if something has that much control over you, then I think that there probably lies a great deal of freedom on the other side. Right. Because like, what are you getting out of that? Like what great growth and expansion are you getting on your phone?
That's exactly what I was going to say. How much more growth are you getting from the fact that you're able to have a couple hours a night truly connecting with somebody who you love, as opposed to just falling into pattern and getting it? Because this thing is so fucking addictive, right? Everything that's programmed to do is to get us distracted. It's a distraction. And like that goes back to what we were saying last week, is that the phone can be, once again, that idea of distraction.
So here is something that I've kind of come across and has come up recently is, so you, on a conceptual level, it's like, oh, this is great. Like you can be with your partner more, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you are still in the disbelief or the misbelief that that is better than where you're at, then you're still going to be in resistance to what is. So it's more about, or part of this is recognizing the old thought pattern and the old belief, and then following through with a new habit. And again, the habit of you doing that thing is creating that thought pattern, emotional attachment to that action. So identifying that and understanding that it's just a habit, that's the reason why that is normal. And if I practice this new habit, that will become normal.
I think that makes sense.
So
So
let's give
let
an
me,
example.
yeah, I was gonna say, let me like kind of paraphrase that real quick. So if I am in the habit of using my phone, I want to create this new habit of getting off my phone. I grant you the ability to hold me accountable. Is that accurate?
No, it's more of the fact that like if I made that habit or if I made that declaration, there's nothing that's there, right? To There's no incentive for you to do that. Like, what feeling are you getting on the opposite side of it? Nothing yet, because you haven't tried it yet and you haven't practiced it yet. Does that make sense?
Right. But I also think it's your ego too. I think it's your ego doesn't want to change.
Well, that's what I'm referring to.
Right.
It's like, imagine someone said to you, you gotta, if you meditated for an hour a day, your life will change.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, great, but I tried it once or twice and I don't have that a feeling. There's no feeling that comes up, or there's nothing that's there. And every time I try to do it, it's like, well, what am I getting out of this? And there's nothing that's tangible in front of me that will make me continue to want to do this.
Right. Or, hey, try eating this way. Oh, I've tried eating this way before. I didn't lose any weight. Why would I do that again?
Yeah. So the thing that prevents us from stepping through and following through with those things is that there's an old habit there.
Mm-hmm.
And that habit is basically standing in front of you between your new growth and saying, this is bullshit, this is hokey, this is corny, there's no way that this is going to work. Go back to where you were. And there takes a great deal of, for lack of a better word, faith to see that, recognize that it is a habit. It's an old belief.
Yeah.
And that with time and practice, this new belief will give you growth and expansion.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we were saying last week, these things are mini miracles. When you are able to break out of old patterns and old habits, it's very, we're both weird. We're both weird that to do that inner work, like it takes an element of getting weird and not following that old, like, whatever the old story is. And the hard part is most of the people that you encounter are in those patterns, are in that story. So you have to like get weird. Get weird and and do the inner work.
Another good word for it would be atypical.
Atypical. Right.
It's off pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Because what has the current pattern gotten you? Right?
Well, also, what have you learned? What are all the frameworks they're giving to you? It's go to school and get a job, and then 9 to 5, meet somebody. Like, these are the frameworks that are given to us, and that's the truth that we think it has to be. But I think what makes us weird or atypical in a way is that we're looking at things and we've seen the way they work, and we're like, does it really have to be that way? So
You're shaking the paradigm, that current paradigm.
right.
Challenging the current paradigm.
We're challenging and we're asking that question, which, like, why
Is this the best you can get?
is this the best I can get, or does this help? Like, and both of us want to grow. Both of us want to change because we know, like, there's like almost I know for myself, this might be an ego thing, and this is why I think I was drawn to CrossFit to begin with, is like this obsession with getting better and improving and achievement.
And I think that's a natural evolution of going from where I am is where I'll always be.
Yeah.
Then the second step is usually achievement. And then after you achieve enough or don't get the achievements that you've always wanted or self-sabotage, you realize, wait a second, there's something beyond achievement, and then that's self-acceptance,
Self-love, going
self-love,
into, yeah.
self-acceptance, intrinsic work, letting go of attachment, and then just kind of falling into flow with the universe.
Yeah. It's recognition of old pattern, it's self-love, it's awareness, and then that flow state, and then the universe can flow through you, and that's when true miracles can happen.
So right now, I am probably on about 400 calories. I did a fast yesterday, so I've been kind of I stopped eating at like 6 o'clock. I've been doing this the last few days, and then
Intermittent. Cut 16 with my missing.
we got a fire Fit Style Friday coming. Anyway,
it's not coming. It's already here. We're a week in the future. It's already out.
Oh, it has been out. My God, man.
I know, it's crazy.
How are
it's all over.
How are we traveling to the future like this, my man?
It's crazy.
I mean, who's winning the Masters? What happened in Game of Thrones?
Oh my God!
How did Joffrey come back from the dead?
How did Joffrey come back from the dead? How is he riding the White Walker dragon and just that's not even shooting flames? It's just jizzing everywhere.
That's some powerful jizz. That's some yeah. Anyway,
and he's
I'll
drinking
edit
some
this.
Johnny.
I'll edit this part of the podcast out.
No.
So yes, we have some Fit Style Friday coming out, but I don't know how we got to that point. Oh, anyway, so I've been doing a little bit of intermittent fasting in the evening.
You're on 400 calories.
But so I think I've been always kind of dealing with a little bit gut this and that, and I think I don't know, I just thought about it the other day. I think someone had brought up my attention to it, and I've always known about intermittent fasting, but it kind of came up a couple times, and I was just like, you know what, I'm going to stop eating at 6. Let's just see what happens. And in the past, like when I work in the evening especially, I come home ravenous and I just eat. But again, like I've always understood that like if you're going to bed with food in your stomach and especially a lot, you're digesting when you're sleeping. You know, when your gut really should be kind of calming down, gut bacteria regrow, other gut bacteria die. Like it's just a time for everything to kind of get back to homeostasis. And in the past, like because I underate or I was training so much, there was such a metabolic and caloric demand, especially glycolytic demand, that I needed to eat so much more, and I basically forced food later on. So the last few days, I just stopped eating at 6, and I've noticed that like a significant less amount of bloating, especially in the morning. Like my just overall appetite has dropped off a little bit, and I sleep probably a little bit better through the night. Though the other day I ate like barbecue at like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and it was just so much sugar and shit that like it was just hard for me to stay asleep, like to get to sleep. So like one of those, like basically your sugar is crashing pretty much. Mm-hmm. But so anyway, this morning I woke up to the sound of a man vomiting outside. That's another story. I have no idea. He was in his opening his car door, vomiting out his car door. I don't know what was going on.
Big night out.
What was that?
It was a big night out.
I don't know. I mean, and then he just drove away. I'm like, this man is probably drunk and driving on the road right now. I can't do anything about it. So I was up at 5:45, and then I decided to meditate for an hour, got some work done, and then I went over to the coffee shop at around 8:30, 9 o'clock, and brought some beef jerky and some, because it's an art, and some nuts, and then had a almond milk latte. So I fasted basically from 6 o'clock to about 9 o'clock the next day. Mm-hmm. So right now I am on then I had that, and that was it. So it's now almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and all I've eaten in the last 18 hours is 2.5 ounces of beef jerky and 2 packs of nuts with berries. So right now, I'm in a weird state. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. I kind of got a little bit of caffeine still running through my system. I still got a little bit of flow running through my system. My blood sugar is probably around 70 right now. Could pass out in the middle of this podcast, but I'm still okay. And I think when the panic comes on a subconscious level, that's when flow is interrupted and fear comes in. And you brought that up a few podcasts ago. I think it was one of the first podcasts of you, like, I had a coffee, not feeling it, I'm out of flow. But it's the moments we embrace our darkness. It's the moments we embrace our limitation and we actually bring it to the light, then we can kind of use that as fuel toward presence. Because I was actually listening to something the other day from Eckhart Tolle, was saying that your pain body is fuel for presence. And the bigger your pain body is, the more present you could possibly become.
Oh.
What do you think about that, man? I'm throwing some hot fire, some hot dragon jizz at you right now.
I don't know. Since you went on your fasting stuff, your connection was a little bit meh, but I was getting all of it. So I was trying to like listen to what you were saying, but not get drawn to the as it was kind of cutting.
I was cutting in and out.
Just a little bit.
My connection must be a little bit not fire right now.
Yeah, it's just the connection can't handle that fire. Any better?
I need to upgrade to fireproof. Instead of fiber optic, it's fire optic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on my own fast right now. I stopped. I haven't eaten since 10 o'clock last night. So what is it? 2:30 right now? Oh, no, 2 o'clock. So about 16 hours, 17 hours.
Now, obviously, your goals
More
have shifted considerably, obviously, from performance. But now you're more in a body composition, overall wellness phase. Is that one of the reasons why you changed this up?
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to try it out. Rogan and Rhonda Patrick went on about it. That was about a year ago. And then since then, I've been doing intermittent fasting, sauna, cold shower. I just feel a lot better, less pain, more better sleep, better poops, good things.
Yeah, I had a good poop this morning.
It's good.
I had a good poop this morning, a good poop in the afternoon. Well, I don't know if it was it was kind of this morning. It was right before class. Good solid poop. Because you're just not constantly digesting food. And I think for me, well, there's no bad or good, but it's like when you do have that amount of metabolic training and training demand, you need tons of calories. And for the best athletes, and this is from Maximum Training Think Tank, is like those people are kind of adapted to being able to be garbage disposals. They digest everything. They have no problems. That it's not a stress on their body. So they eat, they digest, and they're doing 5,000 calories a day, and it's no problem with them while simultaneously training 4 hours a day.
Right.
Whereas a person who is stressed out by the training, can't digest the food, isn't fueling properly, and over time, they just basically just grind themselves into the ground.
Yeah, that's where I was at. I overtrained, was still eating, but because I was so stressed out by my training and fear of getting injured, what are you doing there? Sick. Look at that. Shredded, ripped, and resilient.
It's funny that it's funny. Yeah, literally, I'm pulling up my shirt and showing my six-pack off. But good lighting helps. But the other thing is, I literally take about a week to get shredded.
Right, by limiting your calories for
like
a week,
2 days. I'm like, I have a six-pack.
You have a six-pack, and I'm so vascular right now.
Yo, you are the most. Listen. There were some landscapers who tried to actually put a sprinkler system up to you because you were so vascular. You had these hoses running all over your body. They're like, "Yo, can we tap you? We need to tap you."
People love drawing blood. Yeah, when people go to draw blood for me, like, this is the easiest thing I've ever had to do.
Well, they always collapse my vein. That's the problem.
And you get that bruising.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, good vein," and then it doesn't come out, and they just keep shoving the needle. I'm like, "Yo, be gentle."
I guess to go back to your pain body question, I don't know quite. I read A New Earth. Can you better go into pain body?
Of course, I have extensive knowledge of the pain body. So the pain body is a collective, subconscious, and in some ways, collective pain of humanity. So subconscious as in your own pain of, like, let's say childhood trauma, just things that have happened and accumulated over your life that you have not actually dealt with within the moment. So say someone calls you an asshole and you're like, and then you just kind of laugh it off and you suppress it. That will just accumulate underneath. And then collective pain body in the sense that we are not just one person, we are a collective consciousness. So that pain is handed down from like generation to generation. So sometimes will just be everything will be fine, and all of a sudden you feel pain, and this pain there's nothing that necessarily prompts it. It's not like someone did something to you or you were in a terrible situation. It's just something that's underneath you and that ends up coming up. And if the pain body becomes too much, then people can, go crazy. And, in Eckart's mind, that's why people actually commit suicide, is that their pain body becomes so much, it basically takes over the brain and causes it to self-destruct.
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
So
going back to your original question, go for it. Sorry.
So
about the
pain body can actually be used because you know that you're in pain, and then once you know that you're in pain, you separate yourself and become present, and you realize you aren't the pain, you're the one experiencing the pain. So that could become a very big fuel source for you becoming present. Now, if you let go of the idea that like this moment I should not be in pain, then you allow you kind of pull the fuel source from the pain, because now you disidentify with it. And along with that, there are thoughts that are that can fuel the pain body as well. This is because of this. I should have done that. Guilt, feelings of anxiety will always fuel that pain body, and then it comes up and then it goes back down again. But when it does come up, it gives us an opportunity to transcend it in some way and transmute it, in the words of Eckhart Tolle. So it is an opportunity and it is a blessing to have a pain body. And it is no way that you cannot have a pain body. There's no way of completely getting rid of it, whether you're a Buddhist monk or you're just a 9-to-5er. So that's another thing Achiever me wants to do, and that I'm disidentifying with, is that I need to get rid of my pain body. Whereas if I just not allow it to be there, but more of like that thought that I need to get rid of it, that is what I need to get rid of.
Right. Well, the ego says that you don't have to live a life in pain. So it's a contradiction to the ego, and the ego doesn't like that. So that's why you get more pain.
Yeah.
Because pain times resistance is suffering.
I like that. It's a good equation. I'm gonna get that tattooed. That's good.
But what you were saying before, I think it's interesting because I feel both of us have a different relationship to our pain body. Like, as I think about like my own pain body, my I don't know if it's a lack of a pain body's ability to affect me, or I've just gotten really, really good at suppressing my pain body. So I don't know if it's one or the other. I have to do more inner work on myself in determining that. If maybe my pain body doesn't quite impact me at whatever level, or I've gotten really, really good at just like suppressing my pain body and not letting it impact me. But I think I also have to, like we were saying before, when I was having that, like when I was being triggered easily, that was probably like for some reason like my pain body. And now having that idea or that lens of looking at why I was being triggered or why I was being short with Dominique in this move, maybe that was an opportunity. Now that I have this lens, and when something like that comes up again, I can look at it through that and be like, okay, what's going on here? Is this my pain body coming up? And will I continue to try to suppress it, or will I actually learn to accept it and be with it and love it?
Yeah, and it's not even again, I'm constantly kind of looking at this in different ways. And I think even in saying that, like, oh, I'm going to accept it and love it, it's creating something that's not real. It's not the pain body that you have to accept. It's the fact that, or deny or disprove. It's the idea that like you have a belief about a pain body that needs to be dissolved. It's not the pain body. It's your belief about the pain body. It's not the fact that in your relationship, your partner is right or wrong. It's the belief that you think there needs to be a right or a wrong.
Right. Yeah. And I also believe that I think boils down to understanding when you fall into those patterns, because we've all developed patterns of we've had trauma in our past, and we've built patterns and protectors, and when we become aware of them, that we're falling into that pattern, and we can bring awareness to it. It doesn't solve the problem, but there isn't a problem. It just helps us to shift back into alignment.
One thing that I will admit right now is that like there is an openness about what's going on within me right now, whether it's fasting because I'm probably my blood sugar is at 60 right now, or the fact that I'm in a flow state, is that like I get to a point of I don't know what I need to say right now, and I'm becoming comfortable with it. Like that's normal right now. And as I get more and more comfortable with that, that is where the openness and that's where the originality comes from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I sat down this morning at the my favorite coffee spot, and earlier in my meditation I was like, yo, why don't I just sit down and just start writing? And a couple things came up, disbeliefs that came up. And I'd love to come up with a good word for like disbelief, something that sounds cool. That's my own. It's like Seanisms or something like that. That sounds pretty good. Seanisms. Some Seanisms came up, and it was like, well, how are you going to write it? Like, what are you going to do for chapters? I'm like, I'm just going to start writing it, and the chapters will come. Well, what if the topics don't come together? Like, cool. Like, it'd be a great book that will have varying topics and will be able to like cover everything. Or maybe it becomes one of 10 books that I write. Like, this is book 1, this is book 2. And like all of a sudden I have a series of books. Like all the things, all the fears and the disbeliefs actually end up becoming fuel for the fire, right? So I'm sitting down, I start writing, and I picked up did you listen to Kevin Hart on Joe Rogan's podcast?
Yeah, and he's talking about, as you were saying that book, I was like listening, I immediately thought of Kevin Hart talking about,
so basically
what's your book look like?
Yeah. So what he does is he kind of just talks and then it's transcribed. You know, he probably works with an editor who he just like sends his sound clips to. He'll write it out, make it legible, and then like be like, all right, let's talk about this and let's like hash out these ideas and see if this is worthwhile.
Because I feel it too. Like when technology doesn't work for me, I get so angry. Like I want to take my laptop and just like fucking crush it over my leg like I'm a baseball player.
Because I practiced this thought pattern and this response to technology fucking up over and over and over again.
Right.
So it's just the thought pattern. So I could say, man, I'm really lucky that I actually have internet right now. Like how invaluable is this right now that me and my brother get to fucking talk 1,500 miles away.
Right.
Right. And then that could be it. So I was earlier in the week, I blew up my kids. Like I literally told one of my kids straight to his face, like, fuck you.
Whoa.
Like he was late. He was 20 minutes late to a game. So anyway, but like at the end of the day, like as I'm going through this and I have this expectation of what they should do versus what I think they should do and what they expect, at the end of the day, if I'm not patient, if I'm pushing, it doesn't serve anybody. So that old belief is what I have seen. And it's like, we just come up with a new way of going about this. And in the beginning, it's not going to feel normal. It's going to feel maybe even forced, but all of those ideas that say that it has to feel this way or it has to be right for you to do it is all just bullshit that is preventing you from actually accessing those new areas. So think about it. Like how many times in your life where in the beginning of doing it, you didn't have a guarantee that this would work, but you did it. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is great. Like how many ice cream flavors did you originally try? None.
Oh my,
none.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you actually start like tasting ice cream and you're like, oh wow, all these are great. But there was eventually there was a submit. You had to submit, you had to surrender to the idea that like, this might go good. This might be going bad.
Right. You had to give up the idea that I only eat chocolate ice cream.
Yeah, that's it. And I still have that belief. When I go to a thing, I'm like, oh, it's got to be a vanilla base or I'm not going to like it.
Yeah, exactly. A chocolate base is too much. You can't be putting toppings in chocolate bases. It's never going to work.
Yeah, exactly. And then you realize like, yo, you're eating ice cream, the greatest fucking thing on the planet.
Right.
Anyway, so I digress. What were we talking about?
So before we went into the closet, you were about to drop some hot fire. A Seanism. You were we were talking about books and chapters.
Yes. So anyway, so I sit down and I plug in my headphones and there's a little dictation button on your laptop. Then I just kind of start talking into it. And one of the things is like, well, like the words aren't coming out perfect and it's not exactly right. And I'm like, and that's okay. Like, it's not even that. It was more of like, okay, that's an old belief. Let's just keep going forward. Like, just
Right.
identifying it. Nope, we don't even fucking cater to that shit anymore. We say jump, and then we ask how high. Like, we're just going to keep going forward on this thing. So I'm not bogging myself down. And that, for me, that's expansion and growth. Because usually I analyze it and I'm like, why is this here? I need to transcend this. Let me feel this. But it's like I can simultaneously move forward and give space to that thing because I'm not just that thing. And that's something that I'm realizing now is that, like, in the past, I was always trying to get rid of that thing or that feeling or that emotion by feeling it. If I feel this, it'll go. But it's again, it's just like anything else we're trying to push away, and we're covering with a veil of bullshit of like, oh, I really like want to transcend. I really want to help people, but we're really doing it in a selfish fashion, right? Self-serving way sometimes.
So by helping someone, it's feeding our ego.
Well, if you are doing it because you think you're going to get something out of it,
right.
So that's why it's like there's never good or never bad. It's like you might be helping people because it feeds your ego. Like, you identify with the idea that you have to help people instead of actually being connected to source and going like, this is normal for me. Like, I don't need to get praised, because guess what? What happens is if someone doesn't praise you after you help them and you get triggered, you weren't doing that primarily or singularly for your love of an appreciation. You were doing it for some kind of gratification at the end, right? Which is why if you open up a door for somebody and they don't say thank you and it triggers you, well, was there some kind of expectation that you had? Were you really doing it out of altruism, or were you doing it habitually because you've done that before?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm sitting here. Now I start to dictate and I just let it flow, and I'm sitting here in the booth at my favorite coffee spot. The place is 15 minutes away from my apartment. I pass tons of places that are more than adequate along the way, but there's a certain vibe at this place that allows me to feel so comfortable and feel so at home. It's amazing that we're willing to travel well outside of our way to a place of comfort. But if it's a place that's not 100% comfortable, if you're not 100% comfortable with, no matter what, it could be in your front yard, you would never go. I have to write quickly because I don't know how long this feeling will last. What feeling am I talking about? The feeling of connection to flow. They said that Van Gogh was bipolar. He knew he was bipolar. When he was in a deep depression, he would never paint. He would just sit in sorrow. But when his depression enlightened, he knew he had a certain amount of time in order for him to get work done. This is how I feel right now. This has been my story. This has been the way that I've done things before. Right now, I'm starting to access something. Right now, I am starting to understand that eventually the old story will be transcended with love. I am not manic. Meanwhile, as I'm reading this, I'm seeing all of these horrible, typos,
grammatical errors. Your judge, your inner judge is coming in, and that's the thing, right? It's like,
well, it's not that I'm judging it. I'm just noticing it. I'm like, this is the reason why. But I'm like, okay, cool. So it's all right that that's there. I've got all the thoughts down.
Yeah,
and it's an opportunity for me to go back through it and refine it and make it even better.
Exactly.
It's almost like, have you ever had your book report erased?
Yep.
And then you had to do it the second time, and you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it, but the second time you do it, it's so much better.
It's so much better, and it flows out more, and it's cleaner. Yeah.
Because I'm attached to the belief that, like, oh, everybody does it the first time, and it's the best way possible. It's like, no, I guarantee if you gave every stand-up comedian the ability to go back up on stage and do it again, they would do it.
Right. It's just like with my Fit Stop Fridays. It's like I'm always wondering. It's like, if I just did it one more time, I know I could do it better. So I always I do it like 15, 20. Like I get one, I nail it, and I'm like, oh, that was a good one. But maybe they'll do it one, and they do get better as I go through, and I find a little something to tweak. And I was like, oh, that one worked really well, or that didn't work, or but like we were saying before, I think the more we can do shit that takes us out of our old story, the more you can do shit that contradicts your story, and figuring out what story you need to overcome and contradicts that, the better you're going to be. And the more it's like, I don't want to do that, or like that feels uncomfortable. It's like, lean into that. Like, and the more you can do that consistently, the more you're going to be able to grow and transcend, like you were saying.
So meanwhile, I wrote probably about 4 or 5 pages of stuff in 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it seems fairly good. Obviously, a part of my brain goes, okay, so now what? It's like, well, why don't we set a time? Like, why don't we do like a 30-minute write, 30-minute edit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that could be a great way of going about this. And for the first time in my life, I actually, well, I've done this many times, but like dedicating to doing it is making a schedule and doing planning. Because I'm always very anxious about putting a plan together. Again, doesn't matter why I'm like that. It's just that is there. But I just find that just doesn't serve me. Like, it's something that feels very fearful and restrictive to me.
Right. So there you go. It's like scheduling is always, why am I afraid to schedule things?
Yep.
I don't do this. I will now schedule because I am scared of it.
Because that will expand me.
Yeah, that will expand you. It will show you something that, like, hey, on the other side of this, what does that mean? And I started scheduling too, and putting in school, like, I was a kid who would get his agenda, write in it for the first 2 days, and then I fucking never thought about it again.
You know how many agendas probably accumulated over the years that weren't used?
Oh my god!
So many dead trees.
So many dead trees. Or
think of the squirrels.
Think of the squirrels. Think about the fucking binders that I would go out and get, I would never use. I would just take my homework and just shove it into my backpack.
Yep, you were so notorious for that.
And this is like handing in homework that's all crumpled up.
Not to mention, it was the worst handwriting I've ever seen in my life.
I think that's a big reason why, like, I kind of hovered around like an A-, because it was good enough where, like, they could kind of read some of it, and like, I get what he's going with, and there was also words that they couldn't decipher, so they just kind of gave me the benefit of the doubt.
So looking at that, where do you think that came from? Your handwriting like that? Because for those of you who don't realize, Tyler holds a pencil in his ring finger and then other fingers. Do you still do that?
Yeah, I still hold a pen like that, and I still tie my shoes like with bunny ears, and I also sucked my thumb until the 3rd grade. So there was definitely just a lack of development early on, or like an unwillingness. There was like an unwillingness to I don't know what it was. It's interesting, right?
Yeah, just
I've thought about that before. It's like I didn't learn how to hold the pen. I sucked my thumb until the 3rd grade. So there was just whatever there was going on during my early years. There was like an unwillingness to either adapt, or an unwillingness to learn, or there was some type of just resistance early.
Yeah, there was some kind of belief at a very early age that this is what you needed to be in order for you to whatever, right?
Right.
Now at that age, like, you don't have enough knowledge or awareness to like even know that it will affect you.
Mm-hmm.
But like now, if you had a kid and they started putting their hands on the pencil like that and started crumpling up their homework and were resistant to whatever it might be, like, what would your response be now?
I don't know. I think I would have to get put into that position, because it's just I actually saw.
Well, you're in this position right now. Well, hypothetically.
Well, hypothetically, but I also saw this post today of like kids aren't an opportunity to teach them what you know. It's an opportunity to relearn everything. So I would have the opportunity.
That's pretty interesting. So basically, what you're saying is, you're not teaching them. You're learning along with them.
Way. Exactly.
So it's instead of teaching them the way you want to do it.
Exactly.
You
being
learn.
Open.
Wow. Fuck that. Fuck you. I don't want to do that.
Well, I mean, it's like when we talk about any of this stuff,
I don't want to do that. I want to know the answers.
I mean, it's giving them the tools to figure it out themselves, right? What if somebody said to you, or gave you the ability, Sean, the voice in your head isn't you, it's the ego. If you were given that fucking when you were 10 years old, 9 years old, 8 years old, how opening and expansive that would have been for you, how valuable that would have been for you. How, hey, Sean, when you're in this mood and you want to, after a baseball game, take the wheel from daddy and try to fucking drive us into a bridge embankment, maybe take a second and breathe, like how valuable that would have been.
Did you fuck up?
Did I fuck up what?
That was
No, it was your friend's dad made a bad call, and you wanted to kill your friend's dad.
Yeah, man, that was a good one.
That was a good one. And you were sitting shotgun. I was in the back seat, and you literally tried to take the wheel from Daddy and put us off the road. You fucking psycho.
Man, what a total wacko I was.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Thank you for reminding me about that. I could definitely use that in my book.
Yeah, you put that one right in. Well, I was actually thinking about a story of, for me, like when people teach me things, how anything to do with my hands, I have so much negative experience with that. So if anybody tries to teach me, because I feel like throughout my life, it's a constant theme where there's a lack of patience and people just want to take over and do it themselves. And if I encounter that, there's this idea, it feeds into that old story of I'm not capable or I'm not able. So I think back to a story where we were painting a living room and I wasn't doing it correctly, and Daddy tried to take the paint roll out of it, and I just fucking lost it. And I think I just was like, I think Mommy jumped on my back and I threw her off me. It was like I completely just fucking lost it because it triggered something inside of me that like why the fuck can't you just trust me? Why can't you be patient with me? Why can't you just allow me to do this? There was like another scenario of like in college where we were doing like siding and windows, and we were getting the siding off the side of the house, and I wanted to do this, rip the siding off, and Ryan and Kyle were just like, you're being too slow, go fucking just pick up the garbage. And once again, it was like that trigger. So there's like multiple points, like that to me is like that pain body where I feel it
Yes.
significantly of that old story of like you're not able. And I had a really amazing experience with Dominique's dad recently, where we were fixing like a pull-up bar, and he just was like patient with me, and I could feel myself like fucking it up, and I could feel like that old story creeping in, like, and like almost expect him to step in and be like, well, let me just do this. But he was like, no, he just like kind of coached me through it and was very like patient and just kind of like really wanted me just to learn this. And I was like, oh, this is how it can be.
Yeah.
So it was a contradiction, once again, a contradiction to my old story.
You know what's interesting too is like in that moment you were like, oh, this is about me. But it's like there are some people who give me perspective of like, yo, it's even though you might be in flow and you might be getting something out of this, it may not be about you. You know what I mean? Like making it about you. So it's like there's an example on a podcast I was listening to, and this woman who talked about how she has anxiety, she gets panic attacks, and it's like, if you're in a meeting with somebody, like, yo, I need 5 minutes, I'm having a panic attack, can you, or like, I'm just not feeling it, can you give me 5 minutes? And you just kind of walk out of the room, right? Because in that moment you're like, oh, I'm in my space, I'm in flow, I'm listening to my truth. And then all of a sudden you come back in and be like, you know what, like, I know you needed 5 minutes, but I just left my kid who's been in a hospital, and on the way here, I witnessed a man getting hit by a car and all this other shit. And that's so fucking selfish of you to think that this world revolves around you and your 5 minutes that you need. Right? So it's like, oh shit, there's a whole other world that exists outside of me. And when I only think of what my role is to myself, I don't realize that there's a role that I'm playing amongst others as well. You know what I mean? So I'm offering you that because the reason why people might be quick on you is like, yo, man, like it might take you 25 minutes to get this done, but we don't have 25 minutes. We have 5 minutes. I can't let you do this anymore. Right?
Right.
But that being said, there are opportunities where there are people who are ready and willing to be patient. And the expectation is there is no expectation. And you can take as long as you want doing this. And I think when people learn that is a hugely important place to be, and to be honest with what you're doing. Because if you do need extra time and there is a extenuating circumstance that prevents you from doing that, then the expectations don't line up, right?
Yeah. I mean, going back to what you were saying before, what I started to think about in that scenario of the anxiety, um, and like, there's also a contradiction, or not a contradiction, in my mind, this idea of if you're like meeting your own needs first, so then you can help others. So like, like when an airplane goes down and the thing drops out of the ceiling, you put the mask on yourself before you put it on your kid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love this conversation. So,
So
what are your thoughts?
if you're not taking, what's that?
So, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, that's something. It goes back to filling your own cup first, so then you can give from the overflow. But I think what happens is people don't believe that their needs. There isn't a concept of that. Like, I feel like a lot of people are driven by those other means, and they don't have that awareness of their own needs being met, and they're giving from a deficit, and they expect others to give from a deficit as well. But for me, it's like, no, I don't want to fucking do that. I don't want to give from a deficit. I want to make sure that my needs are taken care of first. And I also want to, help others do that as well. Because I think when we all have our needs met and can communicate our needs, then we can start to build a deeper connection with one another. But if we're all constantly sacrificing ourselves and giving from deficit, then there's resentment, and then there's anger, and there's fear, and all those not good or bad things, but those old patterns kind of creep in.
Well, let me ask you this: what if what you need is contingent upon another person?
What if what you need is contingent upon another person?
So let me give you a for instance. You're like, okay, I told you I was going to pick you up at the airport, but you know what? I just, I was having a bad day, and I just sat around and kind of was quiet with myself, and I took my time.
Well, then you can express your needs,
because in that moment you're like, well, you know what? Like, I can't go.
Right.
But
right.
You're like, well, that's not fucking fair to that other person.
Yeah.
So again, like, I don't know if there's a right or wrong. It's more, and I don't know if I have the answer, but this is something that Lauren brings up to me all the time, is because I'm like, I'm so not concerned, but like I'm opening up this world of taking care of myself. But now I'm so concerned about taking care of myself that I don't realize that there's other people around me that are not counting on me, but aren't knowing what the fuck I'm doing, and maybe not care in that moment. It's like, yo, it's not about you, Sean. It's about us. You know?
Right. They're not on that same wavelength.
Well, not even wavelength, but I understand. Like, it's an understanding that that exists, but it's like, it's not about you right now.
Right.
Right. Like, so just imagine if you are one of 10 people that run a company, and all the other 10 are in flow and everything's going great. But then there's that one person who's like, you know what? I need to be still for a second, yada, yada, yada. I mean, I guess, in me asking the question also kind of comes the answer. It's like being people who understand that and who are willing to do that. And I guess there also comes a point where what you need and the places where you need to go don't align with the people that you're with, right?
Mm.
And at that point, it becomes overwhelming for you to keep self-sacrificing for this person who may not align with you anymore. And I guess that's kind of the point where we go, you know what? This doesn't match up anymore. What you need versus what I need aren't congruent anymore.
Yeah. And I think what we're getting at is we're creating scenarios where if our needs, where you may need to put your needs on the back burner.
Yeah.
In order.
I mean, is that right? Is that wrong? You know what I mean?
I think the issue becomes when it's chronic.
It's chronic, or it's an identification or an attachment to, yo, I can't do this unless I'm feeling good.
Right. Like, because maybe, being burnt out and still getting shit done occasionally is okay. But when that's always how you're running, so it's like being stressed out occasionally is okay. But when you're in chronic stress, that's the issue. So maybe that's kind of what we're getting at, is that ultimately, yes, in the ideal world, you're getting your needs met, everyone else is getting their needs met. But there's going to be, there's obviously going to be scenarios when you're not going to be able to meet your own needs, and same for the other person, and there needs to be compromise. But also having this awareness of when you're consistently running at a deficit, you better fucking build in some time to build yourself back up and get some self-love. Otherwise, you're going to burn yourself out, and no one's going to end up, that fucking whole plane's going down because no one put a mask on over their face.
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's a good place to finish off for today, Tyler. You got anything else?
That's all. Should we go break our fast?
I'm going to go break my fast. If not, I'm probably going to crash a car into a bridge embankment. But Tyler, if we need to get a hold of you, how can we get a hold of you?
Tyler Flock on Instagram and tflowfitness.com. And I hope you guys enjoyed this most recent Fit Style Friday. And a part of my ego says that I'm hopefully a internet phenomenon at this point because it's been a week, but who knows?
Well, what if you are an internet phenomenon right now?
What if I'm already an internet phenomenon?
Yeah, what if you just have to let go of the belief that you're not an internet phenomenon?
Okay, I'm an internet phenomenon. That's great. I feel good.
There you go.
Boom.
I'm
Sean,
a
where
YouTube
we can get
sensation. You can get me at flockfitness.com. I have a YouTube page, Flock Fitness, and I also have Instagram, Flock Fitness. Don't you dare try to get me through my DMs on my own social media, you sons of bitches. Anyway, what else? We put these podcasts out every week, guys. If you like it, please consider subscribing, rate, and review. We are available.
Consider subscribing. Just fucking subscribe.
What are you doing right now listening to this and not subscribing? How dare you?
If you listen to this hour and a half of us babbling and then shitty connection, if you made it all the way through, you better go fucking rate this right now. 5 stars. Get your fucking head out of your ass.
And in the description of like what you liked about it, just say huge dongs. That's it. And we'll know that you're 100% legit and one of the flock.
Yeah.
Okay?
With a Z.
With a
huge dongs.
Dongs with a Z. We'll know who the true believers are now, Tyler. All right, buddy. I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Love you.
I love you. Bye.
Bye.